Didn't I tell you? I changed the reservation time, and you didn't show up, so I got on first.
I could hear a man snickering sitting right next to my wife, Kate, on the other end of the phone. How could you do that? Come back quickly.
Huh? It's your fault for being so lazy that you got yourself left behind. You can handle the rest on your own. And I canceled your ticket anyways because it cost a lot.
That's not what I mean.
Oh, we're going under a tunnel now, so I'm hanging up. You should just give up and go home quietly.
Saying that, my wife hung up the phone without any hesitation. No, that's not what I meant. They're going to be in big trouble. I'm a house husband who has been married to my wife, Kate, for 5 years. We got married after we had a child, so our son, Fred, is now 6 years old. For a while after we got married, the three of us got along well, but gradually, Kate became indifferent to our son.
I will work hard for you and our son.
I wonder if my wife's words were a lie when she swore that to me. Looking back, I feel as if she was talking me into it. Kate says she is busy with work and doesn't really pay attention to our son at all, and when I tell her to pay more attention to Fred, she doesn't listen to me at all. Recently, I have been receiving a lot of harsh and heartless comments from her. The other day, Kate even said the word divorce in front of our son.
I'm busy with work. You're a stay-at-home dad, right? If you got something to say about how I do things, then just divorce me. I'll agree to it at any time. You'll be nothing if I ever divorce you. You can't make ends meet without my money, so don't you dare talk back to me.
I wanted to argue against Sarah, but as a house husband, I had no right to speak up. If I rebelled here, it was really going to be a divorce. To be honest, I had considered divorcing my wife many times before, but I could never take the plunge when I thought of our child's future. No matter how much the prejudice against single-parent household is disappearing in society, it is only on the surface, and in reality, single parents are often ridiculed and looked down on. What is the right thing to do? For the past few days, every day had been like this, and I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. One day, as I was returning home from dropping my son off at daycare, I bumped into my neighbor, Thomas. Are you okay, Steve? You don't look so well. Isn't your son in kindergarten? I can't believe you're so tired, even though they're taking care of your son from early in the morning until late in the evening. Have you been tired from your work recently? Well, if you had a lot of attention and money like I do, I guess your life would be more fun. If I were a dull man like you, I would have a hard time. I feel sorry for you. Thomas's wife is away from home for work, but I hear she makes a lot of money. He is always dressed in luxurious brand clothes and wears expensive accessories. But considering what he wears, he's not very elegant, and whenever I see him, he is always bragging about himself, his wife, and his son. He may not be a bad person, but I didn't like him very much. Ugh, everyone has so much to say, huh? I wish that he'd understand my feelings at least a little. Normally, I would have laughed it off, but I was really tired that day, so I couldn't help but complain about my wife. No, I'm just a house husband, so I'm not tired from work. My wife is always complaining about how busy she is, and doesn't really show any interest to our son. Lately, she has been really irritated, and even in front of our son, she would say things like, "If you complain, we'll get a divorce." I feel sorry for our child. After I told him, I regretted complaining about Kate. When I looked at Thomas, the color of his eyes had changed. You're a full-time house husband? How dare you say that about your own wife, who is the breadwinner of the family? I feel sorry for your wife. I have never complained like that. My wife works hard, so it's only natural that as a husband, you should be taking good care of your own kids. That is why unattractive men like you. Oh, what a good husband and good father I am. I wish you could learn from me. Thomas takes the opportunity to look down on me and boast about what a good husband he is compared to me. I knew he'd do this. Maybe it's best not to get too deeply involved with him. After, I just kept the conversation light, greeted him, and hurried home. But that night, Thomas suddenly came over. Of course, I didn't invite him, but he invited himself in. I, for one, would like to get to know you a little better, Steve. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? I like to cook, but my wife is very picky about food, so I'm visiting your house now since we've recently become friends, and I'm going to learn a lot about cooking from you. Isn't it great that I'm motivated? I'd eat anything, so could you cook some food? Thomas and his child suddenly barges in and tries to eat our dinner without any hesitation. My wife, who is pretty friendly, gladly accepts them in, but it was me who served them. Thomas's children ran around as much as they wanted, and Thomas and Kate had kept talking about how proud he was of them. I was deeply frustrated. We had finished preparing the meal and were sitting at the table when Thomas started talking about our conversation we had at lunch. "Your wife is doing her best. Steve, you better make sure to tell your wife that. I told Steve that since you work so hard, Kate, it's only natural that he should take good care of your child. I think that I'm perfect at that for our family. I work hard every day to take care of the house and the children for my wife. There's no way I could ever complain about that."
Steve, you really complained to him about that? I can't believe you. You're able to survive because of my earnings. Do the bare minimum.
I thought it was best not to make a scene, so I said, "Yes, you're right." Thomas, who was watching the situation, suddenly said something out of the blue. "Let's go on a trip to treat your wife. The kids will be graduating soon, and it's just in time, don't you think? My wife is working away from home, so I'm making my kids feel lonely. It's more fun with more people. If it's okay with you guys, I'd be happy to go with you." I thought that Kate wouldn't get on board with this idea, but she seemed quite pleased with Thomas, who had stood up for her. Even the kids, who were pure and innocent, got involved, and everyone except me was in the mood for a trip.
Leave all the preparations to Steve. He's a stay-at-home dad, so he has all the time for that.
That's impossible. With your salary, we could never afford to pay for a trip for 5 people. Besides, I can't do it all on my own.
You're blaming your own son? I can't believe you. You don't even appreciate me enough, huh? You're an absolute disgrace.
That's right. You don't appreciate Kate enough at all, Steve. You don't know your own worth. Then, do you think that you're a great person? I choked down on the words that were about to come out of my mouth, and after apologizing to both of them, I had no choice but to plan the trip.
Your neighbor is having a hard time without his wife, so you better do all the work.
Whose fault is it that I'm raising our son all on my own? She can't just keep on getting away with this. She was really getting on my nerves, but I was just trying to suppress my frustration. With the hotels and the details of the plan you two mentioned, it would inevitably exceed several $1,000s. If I spent that kind of money on a trip, all my savings would be gone.
I've always been providing for all of us, so you should at least pay up this time. If you don't have it, be in debt or borrow it from your parents. Well, if you're going to borrow money, it's only if you can pay it back over the course of your lifetime.
No matter what I said, Kate was not going to listen to me. I gave up trying to argue further. After some trial and error using points cards and coupons, I finally managed to plan a trip. I was able to arrange a nice hotel to stay at, and Thomas was very satisfied with the plan. My idea was amazing. I thought of every detail and idea so that you could have a nice getaway, Kate. I was the one who prepared everything, but Thomas speaks to Kate as if he himself had planned the whole thing. My wife was happy with his presentation.
How useless you are when Thomas here is so talented. Shame on you, Steve, for making me feel like this.
Why am I always the one to be blamed at? I never imagined this kind of married life. Still, I could not divorce her for the sake of our son. I desperately told myself that. On the day of the trip, I headed for the bus station with Kate and Fred.
Oh, yay, the bus!
My son's eyes lit up as we were traveling for the first time in a long time. I got the tickets, so we waited for Thomas and his child at the bus station. While we were waiting, Fred wanted to go to the restroom, so I took him to the restroom and returned to the bus stop to find that Kate has disappeared, leaving only our luggage behind. Where did she go? And Thomas still hasn't shown up either. I still couldn't get in touch with Kate, even when it was time for the bus to depart. I had no choice but to call Thomas. I changed the time of the bus. Didn't I tell you? We got on already. I guess your wife didn't tell you. She said she wanted to relax and ride on the premium limousine bus, so I changed it. I asked him to give the phone to Kate so I could talk to her, and my grumpy wife picked up the phone.
To be honest, you and Fred annoy me a lot. I'm going to enjoy my trip with Thomas, who understands me.
I'll head right over there, so can you please wait for me? I asked her nicely, but she brushed me off quickly. It's not what I mean. My wife hung up the phone in the middle of their conversation. Sorry, I guess we can't make the trip. We were looking forward to it so much. I'm really sorry.
It's going to be okay, because you're here, Dad.
My son's kindness almost made me start to cry. Let's go home today. I'll take you somewhere better next time. When we returned home, a woman in a suit is standing at Thomas's door. Does she want to see Thomas? Who on earth could she be? If she's related to Thomas, then I don't want to get too involved. I pretended not to know her and was about to walk by when she began to talk to me. 3 days later, Kate called me.
What happened to the hotel payment? Get me $3,000 right now. There's no way I can pay such a large amount of money. Why didn't you settle the bill in advance? You're so stupid. Come here right now.
You asked me to leave, and now you want me to come? I've had enough of this. I had gotten this hotel through my father's contacts. If I didn't go, then they would have to pay the regular amount of $3,000. When I was told not to come along on the trip, I had contacted my father in the hotel and told them what happened.
If you don't pay up now, we're getting a divorce.
Oh, really? That's great then. I wanted to divorce you anyways. When I was saying this, I had a huge smile on my face. Really? Then what great timing! I'm much more compatible with Kate, and I'm able to support her. Thank you for divorcing her. You really are an idiot.
Thanks. Unlike some idiot husband, Thomas really understands me.
I'm sorry to the two of them who are getting all excited on their own, but it's so silly that it makes me laugh. Well, anyways, you have no choice but to pay for the hotel fee for now. Then Kate shut her mouth. Well, of course she would, because her salary is only $700. Kate was only pretending that she was working at a major company. We managed to pay the rent where we live in now with passive income from the property I bought when I was still single, yet Kate only provides about $300 a month, which she boasted about, as if it was enough to cover all our food expenses. Honey, you know you shouldn't lie. Please tell me you're lying. Please! I can't be with someone who doesn't make a lot of money. This means that my wife is way better. I said nothing more and handed the phone to the woman next to me.
I'm divorcing you. Steve, you've been cheating on me, haven't you?
Why are you there, honey? I thought you were away working. To my surprise, the woman in the suit who spoke to me 3 days ago was Thomas's wife, Julie. 3 days ago, when I returned home after being left behind, I was approached by Julie, who had just returned home from her work. Upon hearing the situation, Julie had apologized repeatedly and told me that Kate and Thomas were having an affair. She said that she had come home suddenly without telling Thomas in order to get evidence of the affair. I asked my father to contact the hotel and ask them to take pictures of the evidence of Thomas and Kate's affair while they were staying at the hotel. All I could see in the pictures were light kisses and Thomas sticking to Kate's arm and being goofy. Kate, who looked happy and confident being with Thomas, was also sickening to say the least. I had the divorce papers, as Kate had previously threatened to divorce me, and had thrown the papers at me since she had already signed them. Eventually, as soon as I found out about the affair, I took the plunge and filed the divorce papers to finalize it. It was a decision I made after consulting with my child and thinking it through. And then, finally, I was free from Kate. I was told that Thomas's child was not at the hotel, so I hurried to look for them and found that they had been left at Thomas's parents' house. When Julie went to pick up her kid, she talked to them about the affair and showed the photographic evidence, and Thomas's parents apologized to Julie with tears in their eyes. We were waiting to hear from Kate and Thomas, who had cheated on Julie and me while we were preparing for divorce. No, it's not true. I heard that Steve was a house husband, so I pretended to have an affair with Kate so Steve would change his attitude. Thomas was doing his best to make ridiculous excuses, but it did look like he was doing everything intentionally because he did leave her kids at his parents' house, and he was planning to have the affair with Kate with my money, so he couldn't get away with it.
I'm sorry for all the things I have said. I will pay for this trip from my savings, so please forgive me.
There was no way I could say, yes, that's all right, I forgive you, to her that easily. Well, after all, a woman like you, who is very unattractive, is finished once you get a divorce. You can't do anything without my money, so don't you dare argue back with my decision. I don't want a woman who lies and is unreliable. Kate was told by the hotel staff that if she couldn't pay up now, they would file a claim report to the police, but Kate's own savings were not enough, so they had to beg Thomas's parents for money. In the end, Thomas's parents paid all the expenses for the hotel, and they were able to return home safely. Later that day, I hired an attorney to formally request a divorce, alimony, custody of my son, and child support. I told Kate, who insisted that Fred still needs a father, that she had been ignoring Fred and that she had left him behind, and told her once and for all that it was not better for Fred to be with her. And Julie was able to get a divorce without any problems too. Thomas, who didn't want to leave Julie, tried to stay at home, but Julie had moved her belongings to her parents' house while he was cheating on her, and she left with her kid and divorced Thomas through an attorney later on. Thomas, who was left at the house, had no income because he wasn't working and could no longer afford the rent, so he moved out. He should have moved out first, but for some reason he stayed there and was charged a penalty fee and got evicted. Of course, Julie also demanded alimony, so Thomas had no choice but to return to his parents' house, where his parents were furious and decided to re-educate him from the ground up. As for me, I feel fine because I can finally live with my son in peace. I invited Julie and her child to stay at that hotel. I'm so much happier than when my ex-wife was here, and so is Fred. I wish this life could go on forever, I thought to myself genuinely, as I looked at the smiling faces of the kids.